We are here. It is the Co-Regulation Handbook book review or book
Woohoo!
chapters,
Book club
whatever you want to call them.
/ review.
Yeah.
Monday evening review.
How first, Sydney, how was your day?
Monday. Oh, we went for a lovely walk to the Starbucks and
Ooh.
then just sort of prepped meals for the week.
Right.
Prep stuff. I made some chia pudding and had that this morning.
Ooh. I had yam, apple, cranberry casserole. It was super yum.
Apple, cranberry. Oh, that's
I'll send it
interesting.
to you one day.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. The jury's out on the chia pudding. I mean, I know there's lots
Not a
of stuff you
fan.
can do. Yeah, I gotta play with it. I do like the texture, like that texture is right up my alley, but I just need to do a little with the flavor.
Gotcha.
I think definitely you either like the texture of it or not.
Gotcha. Yep. I definitely get you. I can't handle sliminess.
No. So you don't like bubble tea? No.
I don't like butter because it's slimy.
Oh.
You melt it on something, I would eat it. Now my body doesn't like it at all, but there's so many textures. Avocado I cannot do unless it's in a smoothie.
Yeah. I didn't like avocado for the longest time either. And I find you have to watch avocado because a lot of it does a number on your tummy.
Oh, good to know. Maybe that's also why I don't like it.
Yeah, it's a very strong, like creamy. You just gotta small doses of avocado.
All right, so let's fly into a little bit of a review.
You don't want to just do recipes?
We could do that on Saturday. Because people are going to get tired. They're like, they never talk about the book, those freaking ladies.
Okay, go.
Okay, so we're going to recap chapter 3, which we talk really about how co-regulation is that piece that helps you build self-regulation in the kids. Mm-hmm. And how that if you're not self-regulated, you can't learn, you can't take in things. It's really hard to communicate with. It's just really hard to be around if you can't regulate yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so how we teach kids to do that is by sitting with them and co-regulating, right? Mm-hmm. I hear you're upset. What do you need? By showing them how we regulate ourselves and stay calm, we're actually modeling it for them.
Yeah.
Then in chapter 4, we get into the nuts and bolts of really like co-regulation is that very beginning step of how to communicate. And if you can't communicate, you can't learn from other people's experiences. So we look at the development of communication, mm-hmm. right? When kids are little, they only communicate in wants and needs. And that's co-regulation right there. Ah, they're crying and crying and crying. What do? You go in. Do they need to be fed? Do they need to change a diaper? Do they need to be burped? Right? That's co-regulation. They say, I have a need. You say, I can fix it. As they get a little bit older, they're still like, I can't do up my pants. I need help with my zipper. Right? Co-regulation. What do you need? I can help you with your zipper. It's not until they get a little bit older, and it's about the point when they can ask for help with their zipper, that they start communicating not only, at least neurotypical children do, to communicate a need, they start sharing an experience. They're like, and they're like, oh, you're like airplane. Or they're like, meow, meow, there's a cat. And they want to share that experience. They want you to be aware of that cat because it's cute and it's fluffy and it's fun. And they're like, isn't this a cool thing? And it could be the experience of that they love the cat. It could be the experience of, look, Mom, I noticed something and I know what it's named. Even though meow meow isn't a cat, that's still like, you know what they mean. I just communicated something, and they get pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, the communication as they get older gets more complex. But neurodiverse children, especially those on the spectrum, don't get past the wants and needs. They don't start sharing in experiences because they lack that ability of what we call joint attention. Are we thinking about the same thing at the same time?
Yeah.
So co-regulation is at the very beginning levels is a very physical form of what leads models that back and forth of a conversation. We're thinking about the same thing at the same time, and I'm moving with you, and that back and forth mimics that, and it gets that that sequence going, or that loop or habit going of back and forth without having any necessarily language involved. So it can build that for later when they have the language and the understanding, so that that communication can happen.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what chapter 4 is all about. Then we hit chapter 5. Checking my notes. And this is where this piece about like that, the important piece comes in about showing kids how you think and building those executive functioning skills. For those of you who like, executive functioning skills are the ability to compare, to sequence things in the right order, to see the consequences of your actions, to evaluate something that's happened. And we do this by, so she does a really great job here in this chapter, talking about how we try to develop executive functioning skills by pushing kids along the path to independence. I think we're helping them by telling them what to do. We're not helping them think it through themselves and solve it. We're telling them, first you take the bread out, then you get a knife, then you put the peanut, then you scoop the peanut butter like this, then you put it on the bread. And some more people are like, oh, well, I don't do that. I promote executive functioning by asking a bunch of questions. So they're like, what do you next? Now what do you do? Now what do you do? What does the kid do? So many questions, so many demands, and we're only reinforcing that black and white thinking that there is only one way of doing things, and there's not.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like, just remembering that a lot of questions for me, remembering a lot of questions is very, as you say, like, oh, like it shuts them down. Like it's too much. It puts them on the spot.
And when we ask a question and we don't give them time to process either, if language is something that they struggle with, it's just a lot of pressure, and they're tuckered out and they get frustrated really easy, and they might and they don't know what's happening. So when we can think of switching our mindset of doing it with them and guiding them, one, it makes it not as scary. What if I help you? What if we do it together? That automatically makes a child feel better. Then rather than, like, you can use some of those tools that we've talked about before, like declarative language, to guide them in the right direction. Oh, I'm wondering about, or I remember when. I think that might apply here, so that they're not doing it by themselves.
And then just remembering too, which I think is such an important point, remembering that when you're going to do an activity like this, make sure that you have the time. So that you don't feel anxious. And so you're able to regulate yourself and then be in that relationship where it's not rushed and you're both able to enjoy the process of it.
And you brought up a really good point there of meeting them where they're at. And are we thinking about the same thing at the same time? Which is a lot about pacing, which is really important.
Right.
And they have a whole chapter on it later.
As a parent, I'm actually thinking about needing to get to this place. So no, I'm not meeting my child where they're at. yeah, I'm doing it,
I'm
but
pushing them to get it done in this time frame.
yeah.
But if you're like, I have all afternoon to get the laundry done,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it won't take that long, but I have it if that's what we need it for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chapter 5 is really about taking the fear out of something new. And the other way about looking at like developing these roles is that you're giving them an idea of what it looks like. Do you want to help me clean up the kitchen? And they're like, I don't know what that entails. But if you say, I'm wondering if you will help me sweep the kitchen, and you can be the sweeper and I'll be the pan holder. Now
Yeah.
they know what that looks like. It's not
Mm-hmm.
as scary.
Yeah.
I can handle that job. Or even opening up the job, I'm wondering if you can help me with the dishes. I'm wondering if you want to be the washer or the dryer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, because saying, do you want to help me clean the kitchen? I mean, there's so much for a kid to think of. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know if I can actually do it. How long is it going to take? You know, like there's so much that like immediately makes you freeze
no,
about
exactly. Or
that.
like especially if they have executive functioning, maybe the goal is to set them up on how to do dishes. So I'm wondering if you'll help me do dishes. Would you like to be the water turner honor or the sink plugger? Would you like
Mm-hmm.
to be the soap squeezer or the water turner honor?
Yeah.
Would you, and you can walk them through those steps without being like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. It's now in
Mm-hmm.
a place of like, would you like? And they can see the steps without having, and if they don't like a step, you can show them. Like if you want to like you can model, oh, I'm washing the front of the plate and the back of the plate, and when I rinse it off, oh, I see there's still some on here, I'm going to scrub it with the brush.
Mm-hmm.
But you're modeling your thought process,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they're picking that up. And that's the joy of when you look at doing with them and you think of it as modeling the step they don't know how to do yet. You model it enough, they're going to jump in and do it themselves. It's like when we
Mm-hmm.
talked about sorting laundry last time. This is a light white one, it goes in the light cupboard. This is really dark purple, it's going in the dark one. This is a really light pastel purple, it's going in the light pile. Eventually you're going to hold one up and the kid's going to go, oh, I know which pile that goes in.
Yeah.
And stick it in the pile, right? And
Yeah.
then you know that's something they master, and from now on they can be the sorter. And you can help them, just stand at the side and help them, or do another different part of the step.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yeah.
they feel capable. So then we move into chapter 6, where she talks a lot about frameworks.
Yes.
I often refer to this as scaffolding.
Mm-hmm.
You're setting up a framework that's going to support them, much like the scaffolding holds up a painter so he can paint the walls, or the cleaner, right? It gives him a space so he's safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing. We're creating an environment where a child feels safe and supported in whatever tool you're trying to teach them.
Right.
Right? So we think of like the assembly line is one of the frameworks they talk about.
So they talk about 4 different ways to set activities up, and they vary. They kind of vary in complexity, right?
Yes.
Also,
yes, for sure.
yeah.
Like your assembly line is the very first one, and,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty easy. Actually, I might take that back.
Okay.
Parallel is pretty easy in that we're going to carry this together. We're doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
I need help carrying this recycling bin. We're going to walk down the street together. We're going to walk in and do the mail. We're going to go get the mail together. You're going to hold a piece of mail and I'm going to hold a piece of mail, and we're going to walk back.
So we're doing the same thing at the same time, very clear expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we can work into the assembly line of things like, I'm going to be the washer, you're going to be the dryer. That's an assembly line.
Yeah.
You do, or you, me, and a place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like taking the dishes out of the the dishwasher, and like the taker outer and the putter awayer. That's an assembly line. What else could be assembly line? The taking the laundry taker out of the basket and the putter in the laundry machine.
Yeah.
Right? Those are 2 roles that are an assembly line. It could be I'm gonna pour the milk in to the measuring cup. You're gonna pour it in the bowl.
Exactly. Yeah.
Any of those that you can like bonk, bonk, bonk.
Mm-hmm.
Then we look at like complementary. That's where I need you to do my job. So things like a sweeper and a pan holder.
Mm-hmm.
Even I guess washer and dryer would actually fall into that because I can't really dry something until you've washed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Right. So I might be, the kid might be washing the fruit, or I might wash the fruit or take the fruit out, and the kid might put it on the skewer to make a thing, right? That's kind of an assembly line.
Yes. Okay. The example, setting the table. So I would hand them the plate and they put it on the table.
Yeah.
Right.
I take it out of the dish. You take it out of the washing machine. I'll put it in the cupboard.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what else could be an assembly line.
Oh, no.
I was like,
that
you
requires
scoop the cookie dough, I'll put it on the cookie sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tricky. We'll brainstorm. We'll do a few videos on these and come up with really great ideas for you guys. You're not alone in this. So then we already talked about parallel. I love taking the garbage out or the recycling with the kids, carrying anything that we can do side by side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think what else parallel we do.
And so with now I just have a question about parallel.
Yeah.
So to me, that's more joint attention really is what you're working on, like joint attention and relationship building rather than necessarily a skill being the focus or do you know what like a am I?
Yeah, in a way you're saying, but there are a lot of parallel things that like there are times where I can't carry the freezer by myself.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't ask a kid to help me with the freezer unless he's my 20-year-old nephew, but
yeah.
I'm gonna have to do some thought about parallel. Parallel really is being like, because then this is farther ahead in the process, but eventually parallel is like we're running together and I want you to notice whether I stop or not. So you're gonna stop with me. So it's like it is joint attention for sure. But this whole thing is joint attention. That's what co-regulation builds.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes they're almost interchangeable. Other than joint attention tends to be more thinking oriented, and co-regulation can be very physical.
Okay.
Then we after we've done assembly line, complementary, parallel, we also have reciprocal, where I do it and then you do it. And this is one that I use a lot with the kids just because developmentally that's where most of the kids and the families I work with are. I use things like folding paper airplane. I do one fold, they have their own paper and they do one fold. Whereas parallel might be like I'm gonna hold it and they're gonna crease it. We're gonna do this together.
Right. Okay.
The same piece of paper.
Yes. Okay.
Origami is great. Paper airplanes for reciprocal. If you have two, like the video with the little girl where I have two of the same Lego sets, and I find a piece and put it on, then she finds a piece and puts it on. She has to reference me to find the piece, and that kind of back and forth is like that next level, a little bit more complicated co-regulation. I'm trying to think of what is some other ways that I use reciprocal. You could use it with a hammer and nail, like if you're building something together. Lego mechanics. I'm trying to think of some household activities that you could do that would be. I do it with folding laundry.
Okay, yeah.
Right? I'm going to show you how we fold, and then I squeeze, like after they get good at folding it one way, I throw a rock, or I like start mixing it up and being like, this time I'm going to fold a long sleeve t-shirt, and this time I'm going to fold it different, so that they're realizing that there is a different way to get to the same result. There's more than one way to fold a t-shirt, and nothing is wrong. Again, flexible. Higher level, but and it keeps it more interesting for the kids. Sometimes I'll fold it crazy, just so. And I'm like, how about you teach me how to fold?
Yeah.
So that we're changing roles.
Right.
Right. So that they learn, like one of the best things I ever did with my oldest one of my oldest kids, is that we prepared for babysitting by her teaching me to make the Lego, and I pretended I was the 4-year-old. So I'd be like, huh? Oh, and then I'd purposely put it in the wrong spot, and she'd be like, oh, not quite. And she thought it was really funny because it was me, but it really prepared me for prepared her for what it was like to be with the 4-year-old.
Yeah.
You didn't always find the right piece. You didn't always put it in the right place. But she learned to reference him, and it was really interesting how well, and she referenced the little one, but she doesn't do it to adults. She, like, there's some anxiety, I think, around it. Like, she doesn't feel inferior when working with the 4-year-old. So she like loves him and references all the time and makes eye contact. And she makes eye contact with nobody, not even her parents very often.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well, it's just good. To me, it goes back to sort of that thing of when you give kids some ownership, or when you trust them, or when you make them feel like they're capable, they rise.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And so when you think about this, like, co-regulation, it really is a partnership. We're doing this together. We're going to get through this together.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other thing that she really highlights really well is she's like, make up roles, and they always end in er. Pick her upper, put her where. Pusher, puller. Opener, put her in her. Closer, push, whatever it is, right? Add er. You're the picker upper.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
When they and then that's just that piece around declarative language tells them their roles. They tell them their job, so it's not scary again. Right? It's that piece of like, oh, I can handle that. I know what that means.
So I have a question. I'm not sure if it's I tend to do this late. Maybe we find this out later on in the book, but so say you do an activity around making a sandwich, like you've said.
Okay.
So now, do you continue to do that? Like, is that sort of now we've set this up to be a thing that we do in our family? Like,
it's something that you want to do repetitively until we get to the point of, and you're going to have different activities. You're not going to do it every day.
Yeah.
But you're going to do it often enough and come back to it so that they can get that next level of the skill, that next level of thinking, that next level, because repetition is what builds competency, right?
Yeah.
The more they see it. No, and each time you're going to give them a little tiny bit more responsibility. Like, and when this is really great in that I can explain how we, like, the first time you might have everything they need out on the table. You're going to have the knife, you're going to have 2 pieces of bread, you're going to have it all ready to go for them. Maybe next time they're going to have to find the knife. Oh, I think I forgot something. Or they might get to the point where they have to find everything. We're going to make a sandwich and see what they can find, and you might have to jump in and help them somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it's like, can they sequence that all together? There's so many of those like scaffolding tools that we can use. Like, we can use our language. We can lose the environment, just making sure there's not any distractions, making sure that things are seen or not seen. because as soon as they see them, they're more likely to remember that they needed it or what it does. But when it's out of sight, it's not until they get to that step. But then you're going to be like, oh, and see if they realize that how are you, instead of asking them, how are you going to get the peanut butter on there? You might be like, I think we're missing something. Or, you could be really silly about it. You could be like, I could put my finger in there, and the kids are going to go, no, don't do that. I mean, one of them probably would be like, fun, can I too? I know one who literally mom has to keep the peanut butter locked up because he likes to open it and flick it on the ceiling.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Lots of fun. Toothpaste is also a hot commodity at that house.
Oh my gosh. One of the women that I follow on Jody Carrington.
Yeah.
She's a child psychologist. And so she does a live every morning, and she did a live on April Fools. Right. And her children played an April Fool's joke on her. And what they did was they opened the door to her office and they sprayed sunscreen all over her office, all over the floor, all over the desk, the window.
She's got a really clean office.
Sunscreen. That is never coming off. Oil, like that oil, like I don't know how you would ever get that. That is next level.
Whoops.
And also not funny, I might add. Not an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, but the kids didn't know that. Like, depending how old they are,
I know.
They couldn't have put all that together. But I do get that. That's still not fun.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I guess. Oh no, that's the next thing. It's the next chapter. We pretty much covered it, my love.
Oh.
But is there anything else we want to talk about before we go?
What was it? I was thinking of something just before we took, which was, oh yeah. So just being aware that, when you're like you said, when you're setting up the activities, you're basing your setup on your child. And so we can't,
and using,
nobody could write a script saying this is how you set the activity up, because it's going to look different depending on the child that you're working with. Right.
Yeah, and you're just going to have to know the child. You're going to have to know whether you have to have stuff set up.
Yeah.
And out already. You're going to have to know whether, like, and sometimes I have parents go in and I'm like, the tool that you're going, like, you've already learned so many tools. Now the next tool that you're going to add into this is using declarative language, but only one aspect. I want you to think of highlighting something important. And then maybe in another activity, it might be like, I want you to use declarative language to pull in a past experience and relate it, so that they're not having to think about like all the ways to do it.
Yeah.
The only goal is like, once you've mastered all these other things, or you've mastered a set of tools, and you don't have to think about them very often, they just happen. Now we're going to add a new tool. And it's only one little aspect of the tool, because it is no different than when I do with the kids. I'm only going to give them and this leads nicely into the next chapter of adjusting complexity and finding your edge of, what do they call it? Edge of competence, right?
Yeah.
What's the tiny little new thing, the tiny little step that is just enough to get your brain thinking, but not enough to roll to like be not too easy that it's boring, but not too hard that it's overwhelming.
Yes. Yeah.
I just summed up the whole next chapter.
So don't watch next Monday because you're done.
Yeah, well, no, not exactly. But we can dive deeper into that. But yeah, it's about being able to be like, what tools do I want to use? And it takes time. Like I every single one of the parents I work with have a journal, and they spend 10 minutes every night reflecting on how the day went. Parenting wins. This is what I did well today. And even if your win is I took a 10-minute bath by myself, that's a parenting win.
Yeah.
Right. That allowed you to show up. Like, it might be like, I did my taxes, so now it's off my mental checklist of things to do. That's a parenting win.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be interactions with your child.
Yeah.
And then it's like, this is what happened in my day. This is what my interactions with my child look like. my reflections, like, how was I feeling? How do I feel about how I reacted? How were they feeling? What led up to this? How could I deal with it different? How can I involve them in solving it so that it's better next time?
Mm-hmm.
And all these things come up, right? But it's just like reflecting, even that piece at the very beginning of being like, how did my day go? Because if you never look back, nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that mindfulness piece.
And self-care is so important as a parent. It is so important because, it goes like, if you think about it in terms of regulation, I can't regulate my child if I'm not regulated myself.
No, exactly. And
if
even
I'm not
like
taking
even
care
that
of
piece
myself.
that you mentioned before was really great. Being aware of your own, like, why am I so triggered right now?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I getting upset? Is this really a big deal?
Yeah.
Who said
It's a
this had
very
to be this
easy
way?
path to go down as a parent, though, like,
Yeah.
it's a really easy to lose sight of that, and to just be like, well, Copeland will say, well, can I can I make a cake? Well, it's really easy for the immediate reaction to be like, nope, instead
Yeah,
of
why do
like,
you want to do that?
okay, well, why am I saying no?
Yeah.
And then communicating that. Well, I'm saying my initial reaction is to say no, but it's because I don't want to clean it up. So how can we figure this out so that you get to what you want? And I also don't feel like it's entirely my responsibility to do this.
Right. This is why I want to say no, because I don't want to clean it up.
Yeah.
Where can we meet in the middle?
Yeah.
Can you, this is my hesitation. Can you promise me that you're going to clean up afterwards? Or for me, it would be like, are you making sure you're taking it out of the house so I don't eat the entire thing? Where are you hiding it?
Yeah.
Or the other thing might be like, you can if we have all the ingredients, but I guess in your case, Copeland's old enough that she could go down to the grocery store and get it herself. It is only down the hill.
Yeah,
But for me, I would be like, oh, that means I have to get in my car and drive to the store and all that, and that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's give and take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So we will meet again next week.